the channel free of charge to review. Let me fix my focus on the camera up there. It is a little bit out of focus. Turn the autofocus back on. Yeah, so this is a an AMD-based GPU. I got to get the exact part number on this for you. I think it's like the equivalent of a 4060, but it's a whatchamacallit based AMD-based thing. Let me pull up the listing here on Amazon. Yes, they call this the ADGP1. I think that's what they call it. Yeah, ADGP1. It says 8 gigabytes of video memory, AMD GPU. And today what we're going to do is we're going to hook it up to a laptop, and if we have time, to a mini PC, and figure out how all this works. And William Wilkinson is the first one in. Good to see you, sir. So that is the game plan here. So this is the GPU component. And I think what I'll do in the chat is pin the specs, because everyone always asks, what are the specs? So it's a Radeon 7600M XT. So we'll get that going on there. Maine is checking in. Hello, NC Strev. Good to see you. And I'll put this up in the pinned message here. Ned Dredd is here. The evening where you're at. Siempre es un gusto enorme verte. That's something to do with heat. Let me translate that. Oh, it's always good to see you. Never mind. My Spanish is horrible. It's always great to see you as well. All right, so let's open up the rest of this thing here and see what we have. So as slim and compact as this is, the 240 watt power supply is a little, this is pretty much just as big. Now in here we also get an Oculink cable, so we will try Oculink with the mini PC that I've got on the floor next to me here. And that of course gets you a direct bus connection, and then we've got a, oh wow, they actually give you a certified Thunderbolt 4 cable in the box. This is, excuse me, this is not being marketed as a Thunderbolt product, this is a USB 4 product, but of course it is Thunderbolt compatible. This is what I know. Greetings from Santiago, Chile. Awesome. We are all over the world here. Denver Yo-Yo is here. Randy Malcolm is here. Robert is tuning in from Washington State. Denver, Colorado is where Denver, that's good that you're in Denver, because if your name is Denver, that makes a lot of sense. And we also got William Wilkinson, who installed a 1 terabyte. Oh, awesome. Now I need to know if I can back up my iPhone straight to it. I don't know. I think you have to check the, I think there's still an, is it iTunes that does the backup to the computer? You have to check that. There are apps that would let you sync your photo library up that way. All right, so we're going to plug this thing in. Big old power supply here, 240 watts. And let's get this opened up here. All right, so we'll attach some power to this sucker. Now, of note, all right, it is powered up. It's got a light. Now, of note, we're going to use the laptop with this external display, and the reason is that you actually lose performance when you go through the laptop's display with an external GPU. So the best use case here is that you're docking with this thing when you're home, or when you need extra oomph. Now, that said, if you're doing like AI work or something, or maybe using vMix or something like that, where you're not using the display components as much, then you might be able to get away with something else there. Now, the other thing I'm going to do here is, there goes my overhead light. I've had these lights over my head for years, and I keep hitting my head on them. Of note, we're going to attach this HDMI cable to the back of the thing here, so that when we attach it, we will have some video output. Now, what I don't think happens here is I don't believe that the laptop will be powered by this. So we need to provide separate power for the laptop, but we'll take a look and see what happens here. So we'll try it without first and see what happens. So this is the Asus laptop I reviewed just recently. This thing actually is at a pretty reasonable price. I think it's like $799. It's a Core Ultra something or other, 7. And it's got a nice OLED display, which we're not going to be looking at. All right. I'm opting out of backup. Now, we are probably going to have to download some AMD drivers to make this to work. Rampant octopuses, don't tell anyone, I'm in DC. Yeah, lay low there. Do you have Thunderbolt? How do you know if you have Thunderbolt 4? That is a good question. Generally, what you will see is a Thunderbolt logo on your equipment. Not in the case of the Mac, of course, which doesn't have anything. But you want to look for that little Thunderbolt label. The best way is to just check your system specs to see what you have. And what you'll find is that a lot of the AMD-based machines, so like if you were to buy the AMD version of this one, it'll have a USB 4 and not Thunderbolt certified port, but it'll still be just fine. So we're going to go the plug and play route here and just plug it in and see what happens. All right, so now we're beeping. Now, it is charging the laptop through this. So we may not need to worry about that yet. However, I'm not getting any display yet, so let's take a look and see what we get here. Now, a lot of times you got to install drivers and everything else, so let's play this out a little bit longer here and see what needs to happen. Oh, looks like something's happening. So this will not work with Apple. So it'll work with, so it will work with Intel Macs, but not Apple Silicon Macs. I'll make that clear during the review. All right, so that's been attached. Let's see if we get anything on the display. Make sure I got the right HDMI port selected here. Yeah, we're good there. So let's go into the device manager. We may need some drivers first to make this thing work. Device manager. Yeah, so it's not picking itself up here just yet. I'm just looking through all this stuff on here to see if it's picked up anything. So why don't we disconnect it and plug it back in again and see what happens. So I'm pretty sure, yeah, both of these are Thunderbolt ports on here. Nada. So we may have to go download some drivers. So why don't we do that next? Oh, something's beeping here. Hang on. It used to be like that thing on the old version of Windows where you could just hit the button and have it search for hardware. But so this is Oculink, but this laptop doesn't support Oculink. So I figured, there we go. So what I figured we would do here is try out the Thunderbolt version first on a laptop, because I think honestly this is the most realistic use case scenario. All right, Roger P is here. Shamik Art Center. We cannot. So this happens all the time on these chats. So people come into the Amazon stream thinking that I'm customer service. So I cannot help you with your store card. You're gonna have to call Amazon directly for that. All right, so now we've got the GPU outputting, which is a great start. What I want to do first, though, is get some proper drivers in here. So I'll just do a quick search for AMD Radeon drivers. And I think you can do one of those automatic deals and just kind of go from there. Oops. Did I actually type in Google? I could not have done that. Let's try that again. Radeon drivers. Because they have like a... this is the Brave search. I want to go directly to AMD. Here we go. All right, let's download and set up. If there's an easier way to do it, that's the way I like to go. So where do we download it from? I got stuck on this page earlier today. Oh, okay, let's see. Here we go. So let's download this. The good news is we're getting a display output, which is a great start. This will not work with a Steam Deck. And this is AMD. If you look in the pinned chat, you'll see what you got there. Yeah, it's kind of neat. I like how small it is. So this is it. I mean, granted, the power supply is as big as the unit is here, but it's pretty compact. All right, so it did detect it here. So we got Radeon 7600M XT, which is what it's got. And so we'll just go ahead and install the drivers here automatically and let that do its thing. And yep, and if you got that, I do have it right here too, as a matter of fact. Here's the X1. So after we finish this, we'll try out the Oculink with this one. Yeah, so what's nice about this is that it works with Oculink, but it also works with USB 4 and Thunderbolt. So you have a good option there. This is a good question. I think, it's a matter of what you're in need of. I think where these docks have some value is that if you want something really light to carry around with you, like this Asus laptop is not all that big, right? So the graphics capability is good enough for what I would use this laptop for, so I don't need more. But when I'm at my desk, I might, right? So having the GPU there waiting for you with the laptop, I think makes a lot of sense. If you were buying like a mini PC, as cool as it is to plug this into a mini PC, is it really necessary if you could just go and buy a desktop that would meet all your needs, right? So the ROG Ally, I think it might work with that. Let's see what the ROG Ally has. Actually, no, it won't work with the ROG Ally because if I remember correctly, the USB-C port is just a 3x2 port because they have that proprietary port on it. Let's see, I/O ports. Right, so they have the ROG mobile interface, which works with their proprietary eGPU, but the USB-C port is not compatible. What you could look at is the Lenovo one that just came out, their new one. So that one has got the same specs as the ROG Ally, but it's got 2 USB 4 ports, I believe. I'm pretty sure it does. And then we'll run a couple of benchmarks on this thing. All right, so it looks like, let's minimize this real quick here. All right, I think we're going. So now what I'm going to do is The first thing I'm going to do actually is pull up what I tested on this machine prior. So what I've got is a benchmark we're going to run, the 3D Mark times SPI benchmark. I must have another one in here too. And just so we have a basis of comparison here. And what I'll do here in real time is actually make the slide that I usually do in, for my reviews. So we have that as a basis of comparison. So let's pull that up real quick here. All right, so we're going to look at the time SPI. And I'll put this in there so we have that as a basis. Oh, look at that, it's already on the screen. Okay, so we've got that. I'm going to move that down a row. And I'm going to blank out that. So here's what I'm going to show you. So I'm going to show you, let me add my NDI thing here. Bear with me, everybody. So I'm going to show you this. So that blank spot is where we're going to put in the results of this test. So this laptop is no slouch on its own. And I'm going to run this test twice because we're going to run it with the GPU, but running through this display, and then we're going to run it without. So you can see the basis of comparison there. All right? This will all make sense in a minute. Trust in the Lon. Trust in me. Yeah, so that's right. Blackmagic's got the eGPU. Yeah, they're good for a lot of stuff. Great for this kind of thing. So I don't know the answer to this question, but I suspect I might guess at it with an educated guess. Could this accelerate 3D renders almost like a farm for production on the road? Yeah, I think it could do that. I mean, it's a GPU, so whatever, you know, if you were to have a gaming laptop with a similar spec GPU, it would be the same result. Is this what we would do with the new NVIDIA add-on for AI? I mean, yes, you could do that. This is obviously an AMD-based GPU, but you could outsource your stuff to it. The power supply is 240 watts. So there's a power budget, it looks like, for the laptop and the thing. Flood of Sins is here. Okay, so why don't we give this a go? Again, I'm going to run it. I'm going to get a lot of people like, oh, dude, go turn the display off. I know that. I know that. I want to see what the results are with the display and without it. Yeah, let that boot up here real quick. Poorly Buffalo wants to know, what DP does it have? I think it's, I don't know what it has. Let me look it up real quick. 2.0. HDMI 2.1, DisplayPort 2.0. So if you click the link in the video description, that'll take you over to Amazon, and that's where all the specs are. So you can see everything that's on there. And it does support Oculink in addition to your Thunderbolt connection. All right, so why don't we run the benchmark here real quick. And I think I may have to select the GPU that we want to run it with. Can I have to select it? Yeah, okay, it's already selected. Okay, so we're good. So I can choose which one it runs off of. Because now we've got two GPUs. We've got the internal and the external, so we're going to run the external. And yes, I know I'm running dual display. We're going to run it dual display and then with one display. I want to have as many options to discuss here as I can. And this laptop is an Intel Core 7 Evo, so it's got a decent little chip on there to begin with. And we'll let this run. So I did a video recently that the algorithm did not show you, but if you do a search for Oculink on my channel, you can see a DIY alternative. using the Oculink connection, which we'll be demoing in a minute. And I don't know the answer to the wattage. Let me look on the Amazon. Take a look at the Amazon page. I'll look at it too. I'm just looking through here. I don't think it says what the maximum wattage is. What it does say is that there's 100 watts of power budget for the computer, so presumably 140 watts available to the GPU. I can try to find the answer to that question, though. Oh, it didn't run. An error has occurred, so maybe it doesn't like that display running there, so let's turn it off. All right. Let's try it again. So now we'll do it the right way. Because the wrong way didn't work. Grand Admiral Thrawn is joining us. Yeah, so I would imagine here they've got 100 watts budgeted for the laptop's connection, and then that leaves 140. So I could say it could probably hit that 120 because you'd have a nice cushion of power budget there. But I don't know for sure. All right, it looks like it's running now. Because before it didn't get this far even, so. And then we'll hear how loud the fan is on this thing too, because so far it's been pretty quiet in here. I hear no fans. And the fan should kick on right about now. Here it goes, right on cue. So you're going to want to keep the ends here clear. It doesn't look like it's designed to sit vertically. So you're going to need to have a horizontal configuration, I think, because you've got vents on both sides here. So the fan's, noisy. It's what you'd expect. It's not any noisier than I thought it would be. And it's definitely a variable rate, so as it was transitioning, it ramped the fan down. I would say it's not pitchy. It doesn't have a whine to it, but I've never used the G1, so it's hard to make the comparison. And yes, you could use both. We've demoed that before. It all depends on how your computer is configured, obviously, but yes, you can use both. Yeah, I would say that this is like the docking station argument, and so that's why I'm testing it with the USB 4 Thunderbolt first, because I think that's the most realistic use case. So you get home, you're out and about, you get home, you plug your laptop into the dock, and now you've got your monitor set up, you got power coming back, right? Like that's kind of that's the use case. What you don't get with this, though, is any port replication. So there's no extra USB ports or networking. It's just a power supply and a graphics dock, which is fine. You don't want any other stuff eating up bandwidth on that bus. I'm not sure you can see it, but that little tag there is blowing from all the air coming out of this thing. There's some hot air coming out. What I will do off camera, because this takes forever, I'll run the stress test just to see if we lose any performance over time. Now this particular part of the test is more CPU oriented, so the laptop CPU will probably take more of a hit here. Yeah, that too. I guess I said earlier, I think if I was going to have a desktop PC and I needed graphics, I'd probably just build or buy a gaming thing with the proper GPU. But yeah, it's got that use case. And this has the Oculink port on it too, so that'll give you a little bit more of a boost. All right, so I'll give you the slide here in a second. So this is going to be with the GPU. What do they call this thing? This is the ADGP1. I think I'll just give it the proper title here. So it is a RX 7600 MXT GPU. So our score is 9,421. And let me scroll down and get the frames per second. And then I'll give you, I'll show you my So, and what I'll do is I'll put this one in yellow, and the other one I'll put in blue. Bear with me here, everybody. Okay. All right, so let me put this up for you. So here's a good example of why you'd want one of these things. So we got a long list of specs now on this thing. Same laptop. And as you can see, like the CPU score is within the margin of error there, right? Like the frames per second off is in the margin. But the graphics performance, as you can see, is exceptionally faster, like what, almost 3 times, at least on the first test. And then the second test, double. So a huge bump in performance. Let me scale this back here and do a comparative to another GPU. Give me 1 second. I'm going to just fill in the specs here on my chart. If you want to see what I'm doing, you can go to Lon.TV/benchmarks, and that's my big master. I have 10 years worth of data on this thing. So 9,421. So this is right up there with like a 3070 or a 4060. That's pretty darn good, I think. So Core Ultra / RX 7600 MXT eGPU. All right, so let me put that. We did that already. And then I'll pull out what I did just recently, which was the K8 Plus. I'll do the Oculink one here, just to give you a good comparative here. Bear with me, folks. Okay, so I'm going to play this slide back to you now, so check it out. All right, so the top one, let me fix that, hang on. I'm building my charts for the review in real time here, so it's a little off. Give me 1 second. Oh, it just did that automatically, didn't it? Okay, let me play this back again for you. All right, so the top one is a mini PC with a 4060. So that's like a direct bus connection GPU on a desktop. So this is like right up there with a 4060, which is great. So you could do VR, you could do a lot with this. And the CPU is a little faster on that one just because I think that Ryzen has a little more processing oomph, more cores, I think. but that's the split. So you see this without the GPU, with it, and then comparison to a 4060. That's pretty good. These benchmarks are great because this particular benchmark I've been running for so long that I've got a lot of good basis of comparisons here. So that's why I like to run it. All right, let's see what we've got for questions now. Yeah, so we did a demo recently where, I'm trying to remember what I did. Oh, yes, so we did one where we hooked up one of the GPUs via Oculink, and then we hooked up another one, a second GPU, to the same computer with the USB 4 cable. So we had two GPUs going in. We could use both of them independently, plus what was ever on the motherboard. So you could really stack this up. As long as you've got essentially available room on your bus, you can go to town on it. All right, so that was a good run here. So why don't we close this out real quick? And what I'll do next is get the little GMKTec desktop that I just got in, and we'll come back to the laptop. So we'll shut this down real quick here. And for a laptop, I think this is a really nice solution because it's not very big. You can tuck that power supply away. It works as your laptop power supply, so you get 100 watts. So if you've got this is, I think, almost the perfect use case for something like this, where you've got a nice Ultrabook, performs well in its own right. You don't want a big, obnoxious gaming laptop, but you want the horsepower when you come home. So you come home, you plug in, close the lid, you've got some good gaming performance and AI performance or whatever else you want to do. All right, so next up we got the new hotness. This just came in, hot off the boat from China. And what we're going to do with this one is two things. We're going to measure the performance with the USB 4 cable, and then we're going to measure the performance with the Oculink connection, which is a direct-to-bus kind of thing. So USB 4 is there. Is there another one on the back? No, just on the front. So here, I'll give you the overhead view. This thing looks pretty cool, actually. So I'll be reviewing this one soon. So this one's got both this USB 4 and it's got Oculink. And we'll test both out here. All right, so I'm going to plug the monitor into it. Actually, no, we'll just go plug it right in here, see what happens. All right. Let's see what happens. It may work, it may not work, who knows? Well, that's a good sign. And we'll run the benchmark with it and then without it. And what I'm going to do here while this is going is let's make a new slide deck here and this will go blank for a minute because it's got to install the driver and everything to make it work. All right, bear with me, folks. All right, there we go. And I'm assuming this will come back to life here in a minute. I'm starting it off blind without anything plugged in at all, or with nothing plugged into the back of the this guy. So we'll see if it comes up. We may have to do a switcheroo again, like we did before, and we'll see what we get. And I think what I'll do is I'll unplug it and plug it back in again and see if that does anything. The fun part about having hardware that just came in, I don't have to worry about data loss. All right, maybe I'll, oh, wait. Yeah, let's plug this in direct and see what we get. Now, I ran the benchmark on this earlier, so we'll have a good basis of comparison here. I think I really ticked it off. Let's see. A nice blank screen. Maybe I'll unplug it now and see what happens. Yeah, so the order of operations I may have gotten wrong on this one. I will say on this one, the fan is a little noisier than I typically see with these little mini PCs, partly because it's kind of compact. This one has one of those Radeon AI 9HX chips on board. And there's a link to this one on the Amazon chat also right now. This one's not cheap. These go for almost $1,000, believe it or not. Let's take it from the top here. You know, I just got mine in just the other day as well. That's next on the docket. I thought the GPU would be a little quicker to get done this week, and then I'll dive into that. What I'm going to do is build a media server. What I got for it is this JBOD disk array from Wavelength that's next on my project list. So we will look at that as well. All right. So apparently it wanted me to boot it up without it first, and then we can plug it in afterward. Yeah, some of these mini PCs are getting a little pricier than I would like. So I could see why people like them. They are cool looking. They're compact. I like the bang for the buck versus the top of the line, but that's just me. All right, let's plug this in and see what it detects here. I don't have any speakers, so I can't hear the dink. But let's look and see on... Now, the complicating factor here is that we have an AMD internal GPU in addition to what we just plugged into it. So I don't know if that messes things up or not. And Deshaun Jones is joining us on Amazon. Hello there. All right, let's see what we've got for hardware detection. Okay, so the 890's on here, and yeah, so far it's just detected the 890. So what we're going to do is run that software again and see what it picks up on the next go around. And I'm not sure if this is a complicating thing when you start using two different AMD GPUs on the same hardware, but we're going to find out. And if any of you have insight into this, let me know. Oh, no internet connection. There's your problem. Now we'll have an internet connection. Let's try that again. That might be why it didn't work, because it couldn't pull drivers in from anywhere. And wait for the connection to come up. All right, we are connected. This has two 2.5 gig ports on it. Okay, so it's got both of them picked up there now. So it's got both the 7600 and the 890M. So we'll go ahead and install whatever it's going to install. Then we'll have drivers, drivers and drivers and drivers. And then what we'll do is we'll shut it down, and then we'll boot it up with the other thing. And we'll see how that performs. Now, before we do that, I did run the benchmark on this earlier. Let me just pull it up here. Yep, so I got the score here. So I'm going to make a different slide, and I'll show you what the score is on that. So far, look in the blue section here. So that's the starting score, 4,022 on the Evo X1. That's with its built-in Ryzen processor. And then what we got on a relatively comparable piece of hardware before was a score of 9,421 with the GPU. All right, looks like everything's firing up here. Okay. So I think once the installation is done, what I'll do is I'll swap the HDMI over and we'll run it that way. You're also quiet today. Nobody's chatting. Oh, good. Trent Curtis is here. Now somebody chatted. Howdy, Trent. We got to do some more radio stuff soon. Yeah, this computer would be overkill for amateur radio. The little G3 Plus with the N150 would be more than adequate. We're all here. Everyone's on bated breath. Is this thing going to work or not? Got to watch the paint dry of driver installation. Okay, so we are installed now. So we've got both sets of drivers running on this now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to swap the cable over so we'll get the output directly from the GPU next. So in the enclosure, this thing actually comes pre-installed. So this has a AMD 7600M XT, which we're finding benchmarks very close to an NVIDIA 4060. So I wish it was a 5090. They don't send those to this channel. We get the cheaper stuff. This thing you can get for like, I forgot what the price is on it. Let me look it up real quick. So it looks like you can get this one for like 420 bucks. Maybe a little bit more. Yeah, 459. It's not on Amazon yet, but it will be shortly. So you get coupons, all that kind of stuff. So there you go. All right. So we are installed. So I'm going to take the HDMI, I'm going to pop it out of here, I'm going to plug it into our eGPU in the back here. There are 4 video outputs, 2 HDMI, 2 DisplayPort 2.0s in the back. Boom. All right, so we've got that going. So now we're going to boot up 3D Mark like we did before. And our score should be very similar. I expect the CPU score to be slightly higher, so the overall score will be higher on this, but it will be... let's make sure our display settings are correct here. The score on this will be higher, but it will be because of the CPU. Now, when we connect the Oculink option, that will give us a higher score because it doesn't have the overhead. Charlie Purdy's here. Josiah Guernsey is here. And Adam Baum is waiting for delivery on Thursday. Yeah, mine came in yesterday, I think, is when I got mine. It may have come in a little bit earlier. I was definitely ill all last week, so I lost a lot of time. I'm getting a lot of flickering here, but I also changed the, let me reboot this, or reset it. I changed the display scaling right in the middle of loading this up, so that might be why I did that. But I like it. It's nice and compact. Again, I think the use case here is a laptop scenario because it does provide 100 watts of power. So that, I think, is probably the more likely use case. And while this is loading, I wanted to check and see if we could get a determination on the max power output of this. I'm assuming our Adrenaline software can tell us that. And while that's going, I'm going to load up a Google Doc here and get started on. They call this the ADGP1. come back to that in a minute. All right, so let's go back to TimeSpy. Okay, so it's got the proper GPU selected. And let's run it and see what we get. And like I said, I think the graphics score should be identical to what we saw before with a slight uptick in CPU performance. And then we'll use the Oculink connector, and that'll give us a much better idea. Wow, so Gareth is seeing a huge uptick, in some cases a 60% FPS boost. Wow, I could see that, right? Because you've got far less overhead to deal with. Yeah, the power brick is external. Can I pull it up? Yeah, I can show you. It's plugged in right now, but it's large and in charge. It is roughly the same size as the dock itself. So this is the power brick for that. So it's a big clunker. And we'll definitely talk about that in the review. We'll see if my lights start dimming in and out, right? Yeah, so the fan on this is not obnoxiously loud. I mean, you can definitely hear it. You know, I want to say it actually might be doing a little better on this machine. We'll find out when it's done. But I was seeing like 60 FPS before. We're getting about 75 on this right now. Oh, it's 60 here. Maybe that's what I was looking at before. We shall see. But if you have the Oculink port, use that. The difference, though, is that on a laptop, the Oculink won't power the laptop. So that's the only factor to consider on that front. I have not seen changes yet, but I suspect we will. I think where it's going to hit the hardest is on those AliExpress things where you're quote unquote the importer. Yeah, it's definitely ghosts. All right, or aliens. I'd rather have aliens in my house than ghosts, to be quite honest with you. But if you had a ghost that was an alien, that would be, or an alien ghost, that'd be spooky. Max wants to know, yeah, that's true. If the alien is probing me, then I'll go for the ghost. This is a no probe zone. Although my first car was the Ford Probe that we talked about in last night's video. Okay, so we are done with the test. As expected, I got a score very close to what I expected we would get. All right, so let's go back now to my chart. I'm going to update this chart in a second. You'll see it. And what we've got now with, what is this? This is I got to remember what this is, an RX 7600M XT eGPU. All right, so now our score is 9911. And our FPS, I suspect, is about the same. Yeah, we're within the margin that we were on the other thing. 57.33 FPS, and then we got 29.62 FPS. All right, so that's with USB 4. So let me put this up on screen so you can see it. All right, so here's the score. So I got to put the comma in there, but 9,991 versus 4,022. Again, a big bump in graphical performance. The CPU performance took a little bit of a hit, but we'll see if that changes when we do the next run. All right, so we got that, right? So now we're going to shut it down because you can't plug in the Oculink cable while the system is running. And I know this because there's a sticker here that says not to plug it in. Because if you do plug it in, it explodes. And your whole house explodes. You just can't, you just don't want that. So we're not going to explode anything today. Some of you would like to see that, I'm sure, but not going to happen. All right, where did I put the Oculink cable? I took it out of the box, and I put it down somewhere, and now it's missing. I've got another one somewhere if we need it, but I prefer to have the cable that I took out a second ago. All right, we'll get to that in a second. All right, so it's shut down. I'm going to pull the cable out here. Don't let the alien die in your home. Let's see. I didn't bring up the probing for the record. So we need to find the Oculink cable. Where, oh, here it is. All right, so if you've never seen an Oculink cable before, now is your opportunity to see what one looks like. So this is what it looks like. And what this is basically a direct bus connection to the PCI Express 4 bus. So there's no protocol in the way here. So what you're doing is basically you've got like a slot that connects to it's essentially like a slot on your motherboard. And in the video I did a little while ago, I've got this thing that it's a card, a slot. You can put any PCI Express card in and just plug it in that way. So you could conceivably run your GPU through here with this thing and then just plug a card in, have it hanging all out there with its own power supply, separate. All right, so now we are Oculinked. And I'll turn it back on. So Maxie wants to know, will it play today's games at least 60 FPS? It depends on the game, but yes. It's essentially the equivalent of a 4060. Hey, Geekazine is here. Yeah, nothing's exploding today. As far as if I can control that. Wayne wants to know, does it work with AI? You know, we'll give that a shot in a minute, actually. We will try that. All right, so the Oculink is connected. I am not confident, because I'm not seeing anything on the display yet, that this is working, but we'll see what happens here in a minute. I remember this being an issue the last time we tried this, so I think we just give it a second to figure out what it's doing, and it'll come up. So Wayne wants to know, you can't daisy chain these. That you really can't do. But you could run two of them, right? You could have one connected up via Oculink and another one over the USB 4. So Chris White's second car was an 89 Probe GT. Yeah, I had a 93 with the 4-cylinder. It's really nice. I missed that car. It was a good car. I ran that thing into the ground. I had it for, I think, 7 or 8 years. I wonder if we got a chicken and the egg problem here. Let me try to log into it and see blindly and see if it comes up. Yes, the display is not active. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to swap the HDMI again just to get us logged in. Let's see if we need to do that first, and then that's what we had to do last time. And the problem is you can't hot swap these things. You got to go in, you got to have it hooked up. All right. So let's see if the Adrenaline software sees it, and then we'll know if we can swap the cable back out. I have a feeling on the second boot it should work fine. Wayne's got a good point. You can check the performance thing here and see. Yeah, so it's not seeing the GPU yet. So I suspect we got to run that driver thing again. Let's try that. Because I see the internal GPU, not the external one. So let's do the driver routine. Now, the last time we tried this Oculink thing, it just came right up. So let's see what happens here. This could just be a quirk of this particular. Yeah, it doesn't see it at all. So I wonder if we have to cut power. Let's shut it down real quick. I wonder if there's like some kind of mode switch that has to happen so that it needs to be powered off first because it's in the USB mode. So I don't see any switches on it. But what I am going to do is I'm going to kill power to it. I'm going to pull the cord out. Because I would imagine they probably did not anticipate people hot swapping or quickly swapping between one or the other. Like you're going to pick one connection method and stick with it. All right, so let's see if this does anything different. I have a feeling this might work now. Let's see. Yep. That did it. I agree, Chris. I didn't have the Ford GT, the Probe GT, but that was an awesome car. And you know, we did this video just yesterday on that negative scanner, and I found a picture of my Ford Probe parked in a parking lot. And I think like the 93 Probes, just go and look at them. They hold up. Like I think that car looks good today. Maybe I'm just biased because that's the car that I was driving around in at that time, but there was nothing like it on the road. My mom had the MX-6, the Mazda version. And that was a cool car too. I remember when she got that car like right when it came out, and everybody was looking at it. It was just so different. Oh wow. So you went from the 93 GT back down to the 89. That's an interesting direction. But that 93 GT was awesome. That whole line was great. My dad didn't think I needed a V6, and he was right. Yeah, let's just take a look and see if the GPU... Yeah, so now we've got two GPUs on here. And we have an MPU, which we haven't even talked about yet. All right. So... what you will see now is a slightly better score on this benchmark. And I'll pop a game in. We can try a game out real quick. All right, we got the right thing selected here. Let's run this again. Yeah, the Ford Probe is, yeah, I was the coolest kid in school with that car. But I love the headlights. They would, they pop up, and you could push a button and just have them pop up anyhow when it was snowing or whatever. But when I got to college with it, we had these awful speed bumps, and if I had anybody in the car with me, we would scrape bottom every time. And it got so bad, like the exhaust got screwed up on that car. I had to replace the whole exhaust on it. So my wife knew me when I had the car, but we weren't dating until I had my other car. So I had a Mercury Cougar after that, which I liked, but it was not, that was like the Mercury Cougar, the 99 Cougar was basically the next iteration of the Probe. So I had the 6-cylinder Cougar. And it was okay, but it wasn't, it lacked the personality the Probe had. A friend of mine, though, like really souped his up. He did a lot of work on it. So I had that, and then I got a, you might not remember this car. It was a Mercedes. It was like their lowest cost car ever. It was the C230 compressor coupe. It was a little 2-door hatchback. It was a great little car. It had the supercharged 4-cylinder engine, but the car was rear drive, and I could not get that car out of my driveway. Every time it snowed, it would just be stuck. I had this weird driveway. It was a very short driveway with a very like tiny little huge hill to get up, and I had to back out of I could not get that car out of the driveway. And then I got an all-wheel drive, pre-owned 4-door Mercedes, which I did not like. And then from there I got the Volt, and then I've been in Teslas ever since. So that's my car travel. Yeah, you can't fit a drum set in a Ford Probe. You couldn't fit much in that car, actually. Had a good trunk in it, though. So I've been looking. I'm not going to. The last thing I need right now is another project. But occasionally you'll see on Cars and Bids and on Bring a Trailer and whatever, there'll be a Probe that'll pop up every once in a while. There was a really nice one in Virginia. It was a 95 GT. It looked really good. But I will never own one. Maybe I would get one that was like EV converted, so it just has less maintenance. I could consider that, but I don't think anyone loves the Ford Probe enough to turn it into an EV. But that would be a good I almost think, you know what Ford should do? I should write a letter to the CEO. I'm going to do that tonight. They should just take that car. They've got all the design. They probably don't have the parts anymore, but take that car, put an electric motor in it, and like sell a few of them. See what happens. Because how much more design work would they need to do, really? That car looks great today. I think it holds up against any car on the road today, looks-wise. It doesn't look like a 90s car. It looks like it's from the future. All right, there we go. So, I was expecting a bit higher of a gap. But let me update my chart here, and I will show you what we got. It's almost within the margin of error. Let's see what the graphical scores look like here. All right, so I'm going to put it on this lower line here. That's funny, because the last time I did this, I had a much higher score on the Oculink. All right, so we got 9994. We're like really within the margin of error here, which is surprising. And it could just be that the performance of the USB 4 on this machine is decent. Or we're running this thing at its max. Like this might be the max. Like you can't go beyond what it can do. You know what I mean? Like case in point, I ran this test before on a 4060, which may have a little more capacity left that we're not able to tap with this. All right, let me go just change the cell color here. Bear with me. This is looking. These slides are looking really ugly now, but I will fix this later. All right, so we will put this up here. Yeah, actually, it's funny. It's right within. There's really no measurable difference here. Here, check it out. All right, so the green is the Oculink, the yellow is the USB 4, and then the blue is with nothing hooked up. So from a performance standpoint, graphically, this is right within the margin of error. So I would say that the likely scenario here is that this GPU, as configured, cannot saturate the connection. So you're hitting the max GPU before the bandwidth on this one. Now we didn't find that on the 4060 that we played with earlier. So then that one could push the Oculink a little further, but we're not getting that on this one. So there's probably some hard limit we're hitting on the hardware. That's pretty interesting. All right, so we got that. Then we can do an AI thing real quick. So we'll do a little Llama action. So let me go do that. Llama. And we've got 8 gigs of video memory on here, so we've got a little room here. And here I may do some B-roll capturing. Yeah, I think you're right. So here's the limited value proposition. What happened? So the limited value proposition here is that if you have a laptop that you don't want a big laptop, you want a nice little ultrabooky thing with the core, whatever. Oh shoot! I just hit the button on that power. I just put it to sleep by accident. These buttons are so easy to push. So if you've got something like a laptop that you don't want a big laptop, but you want the graphics when you're at home, something like this makes a lot of sense. Right? But I think you can easily make a better case. Like, this is not the ideal solution in my... I mean, if you're going to buy a desktop, buy the whole thing, right? So this one does have a built-in power supply, but only when you're using USB 4. Oculink doesn't transport power. But I can see a use case because let's say you're walking around. This is what you want to carry around with you, right? It's like, what is it, like 2 pounds, if that? Super lightweight, adequate enough power when you're on the road. You get home, you want to edit some video, play some games, plug it in, and now you've got that eGPU. That might be better, especially if you don't have a lot of space, right? So Wayne wants to know what's the make and model. This is a GMKTec ADGP1. It's right in the product carousel down below the Amazon video. All right, so we got Llama installed, I think, or we just downloaded it. But the ATV Hobo, the power supply, though, is not built in. It does provide power to the computer if it's plugged in, but this is the power supply here for the GPU part. So it's got some heft to it. And this won't work with the Mac, but one use case that I think would be really fun would be that if you had like the M2 or M4 Mac Air, right, and you come home and you can plug in and get more GPU power, that would be pretty useful. But alas, it doesn't work with the Mac. Nicholas is freezing in Queens. Yeah, right now where I am, it is 24 degrees Fahrenheit. Somebody can do the Celsius on that. It is a bit chilly. Okay, so we got Llama installed. And let's see, we got 8 gigs, so I could probably fit the DeepSeek. Let's see, how big is 7B? 7B is 4.7. 14B is too big. All right, we'll do the DeepSeek R1 8B. I think that's the newest one. So we'll do that 8B one. I got to remember how to do this now. I just did a whole video on this, and once I finish the video, I forget. All right, so let's go command here. There we go. Okay, so we're going to go in and grab the model. So the first thing we have to do is that command. I'm just going to pull it. How about that? My internet connection, I'm pulling this down at 295 megabytes per second. Isn't that crazy? Over the internet. It's nuts. Yeah, this is all local, so you don't have to worry about it leaking out. And this is like a distilled version of the DeepSeek model, but it itself cannot connect to the internet through this. So this is relatively safe. All right, so now what I want to do, let's just check and make sure, because we want to make sure that the GPU is actually making use of this. So we're going to go over to the Performance tab here, and what we're going to click on is our Radeon. And what we should see is this chart creeping up when I execute it. Oops. So I want to see that RAM increase, otherwise it's not going through the GPU. Let's see what happens after it comes online. And we may have to point Ollama at the GPU that it's using. It does take a second. It's got to copy the whole content of that model into memory. So Wayne says, this is in its infancy. Imagine an eGPU as a processing. Yeah, I think there's definitely some value to considering these things, because we typically have seen these as a roll your own solution as opposed to a product you can just plug in. All right, good news is that it is running on the GPU, and I can tell this because that chart is full up. And I still have about 500 megs of GPU performance, or 500 gigs. Megs or gigs? Megs. All right, so now let me do a quick recording here. So I'm going to do a comparative. So I want to kind of show it running on the GPU versus like the local thing. And that'll also be useful for when we do the review of the thing here. All right, so tell me about famous YouTuber Lon.TV. I don't think it knows me, but we'll find out. So it's generating pretty quickly here. And you can see that compute going through the roof there too. Yeah, for some reason, so this is what's so funny about this, is that it doesn't know me. So on the local model, it says that I am a horror YouTuber. I make horror content, which I don't do, as you all know. But this is all locally running right here. So it's running off the GPU, and you can see that compute go way up once we executed that. And it goes back down. Let's see if it can do AppleSoft Basic. Now, what's neat about DeepSeek is that what it does is it gives you its thought process first. So what you're seeing here is how it's interpreting the request, which it does in plain English, and then it goes in and actually writes it out. Isn't that wild? And I don't think any of this is going to work on an Apple II. It goes off the rails really quick on the local model. That's probably what it was. Yeah, I've seen some horrific things over the years. You know, I will ask it. Let's see if it knows Geekazine. Let's ask it. Yeah, you know what I'm doing? I'm going to start over. Because this model actually remembers what you told it earlier, so it's going to get all confused. Oh, see, it still thinks, right, it still thinks we're doing. I'm gonna quit it and I'm gonna go back in. Let's try it. See, I just said let's start over. These local models they're not that smart. They're pretty dumb. And this is like the midpoint one. Now, if we had enough RAM, you could actually download the entire DeepSeek model and run it the same. Yeah, I think that's exactly what it is. There's probably there's something in its memory about that, in the 8 gigs that it downloaded. Right, or the 4.9. If I can just, yeah. All right, let's try this again. All right, do you know who Geekazine is? It's got no idea who you are. It's saying, first off, the word Geekazine sounds like a mix of geek and pizza. It's a podcast hosted by Andrew and Jason, typically associated with Adam Carolla's. So it's got you in the Adam Carolla universe. Let's see if they have your name here. No, yeah, it's got you now as working for The Verge. Let me try. And again, this is the local model, so you're not going to get much out of it here. Yeah, it knows nothing about any of us, which is probably good that this thing doesn't know anything about us. But let me ask it another question. How about, let's see if it knows Marcus Brownlee. Yeah, so it knows about him. It does know about him. So there you go. All right, now. I'm going to stop this because I want to try running this on, watch the RAM drop off, boom. I want to run this off the internal GPU and just see what we get there. Just as a comparison. So let's see if anybody knows how to do it, that'd be great, but. I think it's a command line prompt to force it. Let's see what we can get here. Or I could just reboot it. Let's just make it simple. All right, so I'm going to turn this off real quick, and then we're just going to run it, do the same thing we just did, but run it locally on the internal GPU. And we'll see what that looks like. I just want to have a two-up where I can show one thing running versus the other. Yeah, maybe Adam Carolla can give us some. Give us a spot and we'll get some more money. All right, so let's unplug this. And I'm going to plug this into the back here. So what we're going to do now is run it without the external GPU. And what I want to do is just show you what, how that same model will run without a GPU. That is true. That's a good point. A lot of the big YouTubers are Canadian, the tech YouTubers. Yeah, you're stuck inside, right? You might as well do something productive. So Marcus Brownlee's from New York City. I actually met him years and years ago. We were both at a Motorola phone event. He was still in college. And he was big, but not big like he is now. Like, it was a whole different... Now, I don't know how the MPU comes into this, but we'll see. And I forgot the command here already, so let me go have Olama tell me what we have. Okay, so we're going to have run deep seek R1 8B. And the 8B refers to how many parameters are on it. I will ask it about the Timex Sinclair next. Let's see if it knows that. All right, here we go. I think I'm going to blow out the RAM quickly here. It actually loaded up a lot faster, didn't it? That's weird. And I bet you it's because it's not having to transfer to the GPU memory. That's the same exact model. All right, so we're going to ask it the same question here. Yeah, this is all running off the CPU. So you can see the internal GPU is not doing anything. The MPU is quiet too, but the CPU. So I mean, it's still pretty quick, right? It's not slow, but it's a lot faster with the GPU than it is with the. And each one of these runs will output different text too. So it's So now it thinks I am Lone Star Pavone, is a prominent American YouTuber known for his engaging content around video games. All right, that's closer, but it's making it all up. Is there someone named Lone Star Pavone? I don't think so. Maybe. It's still pretty remarkable when you think about how we didn't have anything that could run locally like this before, and now it's pretty easy to download something and just spin it up. And then we'll do one last thing, which we'll play a little video game or something on here, and then we'll call it quits. All right. So there we go. We got that done. Oh, I'm still recording. And why don't we go and shut this down? We'll reboot and get a game pulled up and go from there. And again, I'm rebooting because you can't just plug in the Oculink. You gotta shut her down before you plug her in. And I need, let's see, need a game controller. Now it's funny down here when I say I need a game controller. I got 50 of them within within reach somewhere. I happen to find this random 8-bit DOE controller. We'll just use this one. Oh. But I've got to find, so the battery is probably dead on this thing. And I can't find the dongle. And the one issue with this particular mini PC is it only has a single USB Type-C port. But I've got a USB-A connector here, which we'll use. And why did it turn off the screen? There it goes. All right, let's go log in real quick. And we'll test out a game, and then I'll call it quits. Pizza the Hut, that's right. Or else pizza is going to call out for you. I should change my name to Lone Star. It's Lone Star and his sidekick Puke. Right? Was that the line? Boff, puke, whatever. You taste delicious. I love that movie. I got to watch that again. My wife cannot stand Spaceballs. So I've never been able to watch that movie in her presence. I'm not sure. I guess when my daughter's 11, probably not quite. Yeah, I think I watched it when I was her age. I was in 5th grade or 6th grade when it came out. Movie, such a great movie. What is this? Oh, okay, we're not going to do that. Microsoft Game Bar. All right, so what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to install my favorite game, just to have a demo here. And I want to just verify what resolution I am at right now. So I think we're at 4K. And we are at how many hertz? 60 hertz. This is not a fancy gaming monitor, so I have some limitations here. Let's put some, if you're going to play a game, you're going to play No Man's Sky. Why not? It's funny, when this game came out, it was like 7 gigs, and now it's 22, 21. This will take a second to download, but it won't take us that long because we have a super fast connection. So let that download real quick. So I haven't tested the Wi-Fi yet. I think it's Wi-Fi 6. So Eric M is joining us. He's on the Amazon chat. I've been getting a lot of views on Amazon lately, like crazy views. I think what they've been doing is they put me on the checkout page when you're checking out. So right now I'm up to, get this, I'm up to 73,000 views on the Amazon thing with 625 currently watching. For a product they unfortunately can't buy at the moment because it's not for sale yet. Oh, wow. So I'm currently pulling 2 gigabits per second off of Steam servers. This is probably one of the more faster throughputs I've seen. And actually, Comcast told me the other day, this might be the result of this. Comcast has got some deals set up now with Valve and a few others to increase the data rates. So I wonder if this is part of that, because I'm pulling down essentially the full speed of this Ethernet port right now at 2.2 gigs per second. I should plug in my 10 gig and see if we can get it even faster. But we just pulled down a 21 gig game in like, what, 2 minutes, if that? That was pretty quick. Yeah, I remember like having a fight with Wing Commander's 25 megabytes back in the day. Megabytes. Never mind your gigabit bytes or bits or whatever. Call of Duty's 200 gigabytes? My goodness. It's almost like why bother optimizing, right? Let's just throw more resources at it. Who needs to optimize? No Man's Sky has actually seen optimizations. The game runs better now than it ever has, even with its expanding size. They did like up all the graphical fidelity and stuff too, so I think that has something to do with it. But all right, so we're running this game off the eGPU here, in case you're wondering this thing. And after this, I got to run because it's almost 4 o'clock. I have creatures that will be hungry soon. All right. Let me check. Can I check the? I guess I can't do the options. Let's see what we have for settings here. Let's just crank the graphics up. See where we end up. So we're going to go full screen. Yeah. So right now it's not at 4K. So we're going to go to 4K. I'll say 85 here. We got the right GPU selected. I'm going to set everything to ultra. What the heck? Let's see what we get. All right, we're on ultra settings. Restart required. Okay. I guess so. All right, we've got to reset the game. I just finished the Titan Expedition. I just did that. I am on, yeah, if you can WinLink me at KC1RGS, Kilo Charlie 1 Romeo Golf Sierra. I do check WinLink from time to time. And I only check over RF because that's what it's supposed to do, right? All right, here we go. So we're on a planet. And this is only like what, a quarter of what I have available to me. I have 10 gigs. It's insane. I don't even know what to do with it all. I should pull up my Steam thing. So I got the frames per second in the corner there. Top left. What is everybody using for their frames per second counters these days? I've just been using the Steam one, but it's so tiny. I guess on the NVIDIA, I use the NVIDIA one, but yeah, I never really have much time to play games. Although I've been playing a little bit more because I have the Steam Deck now. So I do some Steam decking, which has helped. So I've been playing a lot of No Man's Sky because they just had that big update, and I wanted to get to the gas giant planet. All right, so now we are at, the game is hopefully, here we go. We're on the surface of my gas giant here. And I'm guessing it's got to catch up here. So let's either that or I just push the graphics too high. Running at about 15 frames per second right now, so this is not ideal. So on my 3080 upstairs, I get generally about 60 on this game with these settings. But this is a bridge too far, so let's go and tweak it a little bit. It's struggling even to pull the graphics up here. All right, so let's do the high preset. Let's see if that gives us some relief here. And we got to restart again, of course. Yeah, I think we pushed it a little too far here, everybody. Which is surprising because like my 3080 upstairs, this is not like this. It runs this game exceptionally well. All right, we'll try the game bar. after we get out of this. And I don't have the video hooked up, and we were definitely on the right GPU, so. All right, so let's try this again here. All right, here we go again. There's always a lot of lag here because it's doing all of its whatever it does. The other problem with this game is that when they update it, the graphical requirements become all the more, yes, this is much better. So we are at 4K. We're only doing about 30 frames per second, though, on the surface of this planet. 42, let me pull up that Xbox bar thing. Oh, you know what? I don't think I've installed the whole thing. That's why we're not seeing everything here. We'll just take my word for it. Yes, we're about 37 frames per second, 40 frames per second. My controls are inverted here. Hang on one second. All right, we'll get out into space here. So now it's running pretty good. Now, I don't think I can have my battle fleet in this sector, so I may zip out to another one real quick here. Let's see. I think the rest of my fleet is like far away. Where the hell? Yeah, so I'm all the way in here, I think. Yeah, I'm over here. All right. Yeah, so we are at I'll get you the full specs here. We are currently at 4K high settings. And let me mark down a couple of things here. And I think what the difference is on my NVIDIA thing, because of the DLSS, I get much better frame rates. And you can hear the yeah, the fans are blowing. I got both of them going. I got the mini PC and the eGPU. They're both blowing. Let me just make some notes here. All right. So why don't we land on this planet and see how it does? And then we'll check out my battle fleet. So this is running at 60 right here. So in space, which is usually pretty good performance-wise. This planet looks like it's got some water on it, so we need to find some surface to land on here. Now, talk about optimization. This game used to lag a lot when you transitioned into the planet. Now it's very little lag, as you can see. It just kind of goes right through. So they've done a lot of optimization. This, of course, is on a mini PC with a hacked-together eGPU situation going on. And here we're about the same as we were in the other planet here, about 40 FPS. And we're about 30 right here. Actually, even lower. 27, 25. Getting attacked by the vicious planets on the surface here. Yeah, it's about 30 to 40, I'd say, right here. So I would expect a little bit better, but again, I don't know this GPU very well, so I don't know if this is normal for this or not. But yeah, we're about 30 on this planet. Now, what I didn't do is have the AMD thing like figure out its graphics settings. So there's all this extra stuff you can do now that I'm not as familiar with. So yeah, so AMD FSR 2.0 is a cutting-edge open-source temporal upscaling solution, which is what it's enabled right here. Now, I think on the NVIDIA hardware, it uses DLSS, which is why it runs so great on my 3080 upstairs. Oh, and then you have different settings here for FSR 2.0. So you could do quality, balance, performance, ultra performance, or native. So we could tweak it probably a little bit more, but generally that's what we're getting. That's right, this is my game. So the temperature of the box is actually very cool to the touch. What I will do, and I'm not going to do this on camera right now, but before the review, I'm going to run the 3D Mark stress test on it, and I'll get actual GPU temperature measurements. But it's very cool. I'm not feeling really much heat at all on here, actually. And to some degree, this portion here, right here, feels actually cool to the touch. This is where I think it's probably where it's sucking in the fresh air. So the cooling feels pretty good. We'll run the stress test on it and see how it does. So I think any like USB 3.2 drive, the Samsungs are good. Yeah, there's not much really out there. I mean, a USB 4 or Thunderbolt drive is probably the better one to get, just if you want the absolute fastest, because those do respond a little quicker. But there's not many like dedicated USB 4 drives that you can buy enclosures that do USB 4 Thunderbolt with an NVMe, and those perform really well because in addition to the throughput, you get the lower latencies on those too. Now, I will say it's blowing a lot of hot air. I can feel like a lot of, actually it's a nice hand warmer right here. So it comes in over here and out over here. So there's a good amount of hot air blowing out the end over there. So good stuff. All right, well, we've got a good baseline here to start from. So good stuff. All right, I got a jet. Yeah, I'll have to tweak this a little bit more. There's a lot of tweaking involved. We're getting back to how it was in the 90s with my stuff. You had to make a different boot disk for every game that you tried to boot up. So, but what I am going to do before I shoot the video, which is likely going to be shot tomorrow now, I will run the stress test on it to get the full temperature readout from this. But my impressions are, it's a nice turnkey solution, right? You've got Oculink and you've got USB 4 Thunderbolt. Again, what I'm going to recommend to people is who needs this. I think if you want the Ultrabook, but you also want the graphics when you're docked, it's actually a pretty decent solution. Becomes your power supply, got your single cable. You can use your lightweight laptop with it and dramatically boost its performance. So that's what I would say is something to think about there. Hey, this side towards screen is here. Hello there. All right. Well, I'm going to close out here because I got to go. You should say I got a prop. But I got a jet. Or I got a prop, one or the other. I'm going flying on Thursday, I think. I've had the worst luck trying to take my flying lessons. The weather has been awful here. And when it's clear outside, it's windy as all heck. The poor little plane can't fly in that wind. So at least it can't take off in that wind. And yeah, this is the new GMKTec one that just came out. We're going to be looking at this one later. I got a lot of stuff that just came in. So yeah, it's good stuff. All right, everybody. I will catch you all later. Yeah, it is, you know, it's not practical in many cases. And that's why I think the one use case that I could say is, and I'm not trying to sell this thing, like, you know, you'll find value in it or not. But I would say that there is a compelling argument to be made for people who are looking for a solution for their Ultrabook. I think that's certainly the case there. So good stuff. Yeah, the good news is the plane that I fly is this little Piper 140, and that thing can glide. Half the time when we're coming back in, like I think it was the last time or last time before that, we were almost idle the whole way back to the airport. That thing is just incredibly buoyant in the air. Sometimes so much so it's hard to get it to land. So it's a fun airplane to learn on. All right, well, I'm going to head out, everybody, but I thank you all for tuning in. And this was another good session with all of you. I appreciate the help that everyone provides. And yeah, good stuff. It's been almost 2 hours already. Can you believe that? Time flies when you're having fun playing with eGPUs. All right, I will catch you all on the next one. And be sure to tune in and subscribe if you haven't already, because I have to say that as a YouTuber. Smash the subscribe and the like button, or whatever it is you're supposed to do. All right, everybody. Thank you all for tuning in and joining me as usual. And we'll be back with more before you know it. Catch you later. Bye-bye.